I'm out here harvesting strawberries and it's just like heartbreaking. Everything is so wet and the slugs are on the berries before they're even ripe and they're just destroyed. I'm just throwing them. I don't have any in my bowl. This is the craziest spring. It's a rough one, and if this is your first year gardening, do not give up. Not all years are like this. But yeah, it's really disappointing. Guys, this is legit the first sunny day we have had in what feels like a month and a half. There's some consequences to the garden for that. Some things are doing really well. Peas are okay. But because of the rain, I haven't been able to treat for some pests like I normally would. And it's it's frustrating. I tried to treat the garlic. I had leek moth for the very first time last year. And this year, during the time you should be spraying, everything was wet. I did treat a few times, and the treatment for that is just, the organic treatment is just to use BT and spray all of your alliums. They are in our onions, they are in our walking onions, they're in our chives, and they are in our garlic. So I'll show you what some of that damage looks like, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. The other consequence of all the rain is, you know, some of the heat-loving things, like tomatoes, which are behind me here. Here at home in the raised bed, they're okay, but we went to the community garden today to check some of the damage. We were on vacation this past week, and I hadn't checked the garden in about a week, and some of the tomatoes have, I'm gonna call it leaf curl, but the new growth is quite deformed, and the older leaves on the plants look fine. So I looked for signs of, you know, bug damage, couldn't find any. There were no droppings or anything. This is a really bad earwig year, which we'll get to in a second. Couldn't find any signs. So did some research online, and I think it's actually excess moisture. So there was standing water at the community garden. Things were definitely saturated, and I think that's what's going on with the tomatoes. Now it's so late in the year, I don't have any replacement plants. We did try to go buy a few. I found a replacement for one of the tomatoes that's affected, but I couldn't find it for others. So I think we are just gonna leave them and let them try to recover on their own, which if it is due to excess moisture, I think it should be okay. But fingers crossed, we will see. This has been the craziest gardening year ever. If you are a beginner gardener, do not judge this season. Like, holy crap, this has been a weird year. Another bummer, our strawberries are just like rotted. They're just rotten. There's so many bugs. There's earwigs, there's slugs. I couldn't do anything about any of it until today. Today, I am going to spray, in addition to earwigs and slugs, this has been the worst ant year I have ever seen. So I want to get ahead of the aphids, which are inevitably going to come with all this flush of growth after all of that rain and now sunshine. So I did get some Safer's Trounce. That will be for around just the ornamental beds and around the house, to try to take care of the ants. They're also coming into the house, but that should take care of a lot of the ants and hopefully a lot of the earwigs. I planted dahlias. I planted 6 dahlias, and overnight they were stripped. Overnight. So I haven't planted any more. It's, you know, getting on, you know, almost mid-July here. So we may not have very many blooms this year, but today I'm gonna try to get some more dahlias in, and now I can finally use some of my treatments for the earwigs on the dahlias. So I really find diatomaceous earth useful. However, it's ineffective when it's wet. So it really has to be dry in order for that to be effective and for you to not be applying it literally like every day. Well, it wouldn't have even mattered. It's been raining every day and it does not work when it's wet. So really today is the first day I can do any of this stuff and I feel like I'm so behind, but it is what it is. There's lots of pluses too. I'm gonna show you some of, I took a couple clips like the other day when I was trying to pick the berries, and I'll show you, you know, what leaf moth damage and stuff looks like. But there's still lots of pros too. Like the garlic is looking amazing. I think the bulbs are gonna be fine. That is the good thing about the leaf moth is we lost about half of our scapes, but generally I think they leave the bulbs alone. So I hope that is the case. And I have some plans to do some things to maybe help it next year. Some of the other things that are looking good, the tomatoes that aren't affected at the community garden actually look really good. And the tomato plants here are looking really healthy. They just need, you know, some sunshine to take a growth spurt, right? Our brassicas are looking awesome. So far, our cucurbits are looking awesome. There are cucumber beetles in town at the community garden. So far out here, I haven't seen any. Our peas are doing amazing. Lola's running around in the background. Oh, she's eating sod. Just a second. Somebody is super happy that it is sunny. And the lawn's been mowed. You should have seen it. It was, oh, it was a meadow. But yes, brassicas are doing good. Peas are doing amazing. Unfortunately, our ranunculus are just finishing up. They're kind of pretty right now. But we didn't get as many blooms as we would have if it had been a little drier. Some bean seed has drowned. Asparagus did well this year. I'll do a tour in like a day or two, but anyway, there are bonuses. Our potatoes at the community garden look awesome. Our carrot seed, I think, did get a little washed away in town, and out here they all came up and then something ate them. I assume it's earwigs because earwigs are literally everywhere. Yeah, and the garlic's looking good. Earwigs are literally in every crevice. They are so disgusting. I cannot wait to spray them. But I want to show you what leaf moth damage looks like. So on the leaves, you can see here, I hope you can see that damage there. So basically the leaf moth comes and lays its eggs somewhere on the garlic. It hatches and it's a little worm and it will dig its way down into the plant. Like I said, on garlic, it's usually not a big deal. It's generally the scape or leaves or the stem. It's not generally not the bulb. I'll show you what the damage looks like on the scapes though too. Okay, I hope you can see this. Essentially, the larva just tunnels into the scape, and you can usually see little holes, or sometimes you can see material that they kind of excavated out of the stem. This one has multiple holes. So somewhere in there are probably the worms, so we don't want to eat that. So I've just tossed them onto the ground. I just finished harvesting them today, but I'm gonna come around and pick all of this up and make sure it goes in the green bin. I do not want to compost this because they will overwinter. They are starting to crawl out. Here's what one looks like. It will make a little cocoon type of a type of a situation here. See if I can get it to focus. Sorry. Okay, so there it is in its little cocoon, and then that will hatch eventually into a moth. So I want to make sure that all of these critters are gone and away from here so we don't end up with a worse problem next year. Although everything that I have been hearing online, this is kind of a disaster year for leek moth. And like I said, I had never seen it before last year. But here's some damage to my walking onions here. I can get it, and it's all over the plants when you start looking. Our onions here, a lot of the tips are gone, and probably the worms are on the inside. And with onions, they do actually go down and burrow into the bulb of the onions. So these were ones I started from seed. They, like I said, I don't have the greatest luck with onions anyway, so I think I've decided that I'm gonna just pull all of these out and replant something here. It's weedy anyway. And hopefully cut off as many in that life cycle as I can for next year. And hopefully next year it will be drier and I'll be able to start spraying a lot earlier. The other thing I'm going to do is they can be present in chives as well. So I've got 3 or 4 quite large chive plants in and around the garden. I'm going to cut those right back to the ground, give them a good spray, and dispose of all the above ground material. And actually I do see a chive over there that looks like it's affected as well. So that's a bummer. The chives will grow back. I have onions at the community garden that are so far unaffected, and we just hope for a better year next year.